This webinar is titled The Pilgrim Story, the National Monument to the Forefathers, the 5 Keys to Maximum Freedom and Liberty. Well, I love the National Treasure movie series. Imaginative secrets are discovered by the actors in the movie, and at the top of this movie it says the clues are right in front of your eyes. And these are fictional items that they go in search of. But in fact, we've got real items in our national history that are national treasures that are yet to be discovered and have been long forgotten. If you were to go to Plymouth, Massachusetts, you would probably go to Plymouth Rock as a first place to visit. You'd find a colonnade there, a marker identifying the place in the Plymouth Rock there on the ground. But up on the hill in an out-of-the-way place on Allerton Street, a nondescript street, you will find hidden away in a neighborhood the National Monument to the Forefathers. This monument was first donated toward in 1794. George Washington had only been president for 5 years. It was 50-plus years later that a final plan was finally approved, and it was 34 years after that plan that it was finished, this monument, and dedicated in 1889. 11,000 people donated to the effort, almost a 100-year project. Well, in this monument that is now over 100 years old, we find the Pilgrims' freedom formula, the 5 keys for maximum freedom and liberty. Let's get started with key number 1, faith. Faith is the upper statue and the largest of all the figurines on this monument. She faces east, remembering from where they had come, that God's providences were involved in their coming to America, that God's providences in all of history were working out His plan, that they literally saw it in the same way that God led the Israelites through the Red Sea. She has her foot resting on Plymouth Rock, her hands pointing heavenward. God is the maker of heaven and earth. God is working out His plan here on earth, and God leads and guides. There's a star on Faith's forehead. It represents honor and importance, the high value on the intellect and mind. The application of truth was reasoned from the mind, and though man was sinful, God could lead and guide his mind to wisdom and truth. The Geneva Bible was in her hand. The Bible can be applied to all of life. Its pages are slightly open, meaning it can be used. And so these are the elements that we find in faith. The Pilgrims believed religious liberty preceded civil liberty. Religious liberty was internal, civil liberty was external. Religious liberty gave rise to civil liberty in society. So in this statue then, this monument, faith is the first key. It opens up the additional keys on the monument, represented by additional statues. Let's take a look at them now as they unpack the other 5 keys. The next key would be morality, law, education, and liberty, the 5 keys on this monument. Let's take a look at key number 2, morality. 4 observations to make. The eyes are not finished because morality requires us to look inward. The breastplate necklace would have been indicative or symbolic that the believer, the God follower, has direct access to God and is a priest to their family. The 10 Commandments were in her left hand, giving God's direction for life, and the scroll of Revelation, that God is the Alpha and Omega and rules over all time, is in her right hand. The Massachusetts State Legislature actually paid for this statue to be placed, as a statement that public servants ought to set an example of moral leadership for its citizens, and boy, do we need a reminder of that today. The next statue is that of law. It's the 3rd key in the Pilgrim's freedom formula. Law's eyes have a serious look to them. He has the 10 Commandments in his left hand as well. 6 of the commandments deal with civil society. Honor your father and mother. Do not murder. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. Do not covet. Do not bear false testimony. Those served as anchors to American jurisprudence for the first 150 years of our nation's being. The left hand is extended in mercy, and so that law is known to be both full of justice and mercy. The Pilgrims believed that all were equal before the law and had no special privileges and should be given due to birth, wealth, or social status. Many of their laws came right from the Bible, and others applied biblical principles to justice, ethics, and proper restitution for wrongs done, and they had a very healthy society. The 4th key is that of education. In education, she's wearing a victor's wreath, showing she has accomplished the task of educating her children to pass on the ideals of liberty to the next generation. She has a young face, showing that she has accomplished this at a young age. There's a book that's representative in her hand. It could be the Bible, but of all the books that speak of noble things, that is, whatever's pure, whatever's praiseworthy, whatever's noble, whatever's trustworthy, think about such things. And so the Pilgrims valued learning highly. The number of books possessed by the Pilgrims was remarkable, considering the size of the colony, the high price of books, and the scarcity of personally owned books. Almost everyone in the colony had a Bible, most likely the Geneva Bible, but Bradford, Brewster, and Winslow had 300 to 400 books. Bradford studied Hebrew by candlelight, and Winslow and Standish learned the Indian dialect. So education was a high thing of high regard. Also, as you learned from another webinar, they were trying to apply the Bible to all of life, and they saw that these four elements, distinct areas, were areas that God dispensed His authority to individuals, to the family, to the church, and to civil government, and each had specific roles to play in society. And so that's the fourth key, education. And then finally, the last key, that of liberty. Liberty has four components to him. The first component is his head. He has a steady gaze, a clear sight. He has a confident countenance. The rising sun on his helmet is a new day of liberty dawning. The slain lion actually shows up in three places on this statue: the right shoulder, the left arm, and behind his back. And this was indicative of the Pilgrims' victory over tyranny, both religious, because they escaped religious persecution, but also civil tyranny from the king, as they set up their own governing documents, the Mayflower Compact, and began self-government in America. They lived in civil liberty. The shackles of tyranny are broken, and this is shown by the chain's grasp in his left hand. These are held in his hand on his leg, and then lastly, the chain is underneath his right foot, as an example of tyranny under submission, that liberty has overcome tyranny. And then lastly, this fourth element on liberty is the sheathed sword. Pilgrims would defend their liberty, but would not take an offensive position. The best way to keep the peace, they believed, is to be prepared to defend oneself, community, and nation. So these were the Pilgrims' 5 keys to maximum freedom and liberty: faith, morality, law, education, and liberty. And on the westward-facing panel it says this: "Thus out of small beginnings greater things have been produced by His hand, that made all things of nothing, and gives being to all things that are. And as one small candle may light 1,000, so the light here kindled hath shone unto many. Yea, in some sort to our whole nation, let the glorious name of Jehovah have all praise." Daniel Webster, that spoke in 1820 at the 200-year anniversary of the Pilgrims' arrival in the New World, said this: "God grants liberty only to those who love it and are always ready to guard and defend it." I will mention at uscivicstraining.org, this statue is unpacked even further, because there's statuettes that further interpret this monument that I've not mentioned in this training of this webinar, and so please visit uscivicstraining.org. Here are 4 resources I will comment on at the end of this video after a 3-second pause. My name's Craig Seibert. Thanks for listening. Real quickly, these 4 resources that you might consider of Plymouth Plantation is a first-hand account by William Bradford. This book can be ordered, and it's a great 40-year history of the Pilgrim experience. The American Covenant has a spiritual element to it, and it tells of the whole history of the Pilgrims and their covenanting ideas. Plymouth in the Words of Her Founders by Dr. Paul Jaley really unpacks this monument and other monuments of Plymouth in a great way. And then the DVD Monumental is an excellent resource for understanding some of the ideas and other ideas about this monument that you can watch on your television. My name's Craig Seibert. Thanks for listening.